Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hooligan Report. I'm joined today by Cruyff
Good morning.
and also Bojan.
Hi guys.
Hi. So we've been off the air for 2 weeks now, so we'll just have a quick recap of the set of games that we've missed chatting about. We had United beating Watford 2-1. Chelsea got a 1-0 win over Norwich. Everton quite comprehensively dismantled Villa 4-0. Leicester 3-0 against Newcastle. Stoke 1-0 up against Southampton. Swansea and Bournemouth drew 2-2. West Brom got the upset win against Arsenal 2-1. Liverpool beat Man City 4-1. Spurs beat West Ham 4-1. And Sunderland beat Palace 1-0. So, out of those results, what jumps out at you guys, Cruyff?
I think the Liverpool City result and Bromwich Arsenal.
How did you guys play in that game? I didn't actually catch much of it. Did you see the highlights or watch the game?
I saw the highlights and we weren't good at all. I mean, it was just turgid football and sort of what you expect from Arsenal when they're on a patch of good form and you expect them to win, and then decide not to show up their races.
And Bojan, what did you make of that set of results?
Oh well, clearly the Liverpool result was the biggest and the most surprising of the week. And a few things went Liverpool's way, but they fully deserved their victory.
They played some fantastic football in that game.
Yeah, they did. City really struggled to cope with that kind of pairing of Coutinho, Firmino, and this other bloke, Ibe. So yeah, they really couldn't. Fernandinho couldn't do it all himself, and Yaya wasn't providing much. So they really they just dominated the whole game, effectively. And outside of that, I didn't catch the whole game week, but I was very impressed with Bastian Schweinsteiger. He's starting to really come into his own and hit top form now, which is just fantastic.
You would have been very relieved with that late goal against Watford, because I know Watford equalised quite late on in that game, so to pull through and still get the win would have been good to see.
Yeah, that's right. So with all the injuries United had, Rojo came back from international duty in Argentina, but was basically only in the country for about 6 hours, and because he didn't have anyone else except a bunch of 17-year-olds, he had to play centre half. Jeez. And he made a really lazy challenge on, I think it was Dini.
Igalo,
Igalo,
player who won the penalty. I think that was Igalo.
Yeah. It was definitely a penalty, but on the balance of play of the whole game, United well deserved the win, and it was quite refreshing to see a kind of last-minute United win. Throw back to the old days.
Yeah. The other one that kind of stood out to me was Everton beating Villa 4-0. And Everton have been in pretty good form recently, and Villa certainly don't look any better under Remy Gard than they did under Sherwood. That 0-0 with Man City might have just been sort of, new manager coming in, bit of a honeymoon, but they've kind of gone back to their woeful ways, and Everton looking very impressive.
I mean, Everton, if we just touch on the League Cup win midweek, Deulofeu and Lukaku as a pairing is turning out to be very good, and we saw in the Villa game as well with Barkley's doing well, and that trio are really pulling them through. And I mean, it's obviously a team effort, but those three are really standing out.
They certainly. We've mentioned that they've kind of come out of a patch of really tough fixtures, and they've got some much more winnable games coming up. So the fact that they're sitting quite in the top half of the table already bodes very well for Everton fans. We'll move on to last weekend's set of results then. Obviously, there were a few injuries to chat about out of these games, but we'll start with the Arsenal-Norwich game with that 1-1 draw and Alexis Sanchez injury, Cruyff. And apparently he's out for 4 months.
Apparently, I only read about it this morning. I heard that was on the forum. I'm glad Bojan finds it so funny. The first I heard of it was this morning. I don't know if it's confirmed or not.
You just saw it. What was that, Bojan?
Well, it looked. I mean, usually when you have a hamstring injury right at the top towards your ass, those are the really bad ones. But it looked like it was a lower hamstring injury, which is usually your kind of 2 to 4 week ones. So 4 months. I'm not quite sure about that. I suspect he'll be back a fair bit sooner than that. But how long's he? How long? I mean, Wenger talks about the red zone a lot. And that guy's played more games than anyone else.
In the
But
world
played-
almost.
He played every minute of every game in November.
Cheers.
And probably for his country as well.
Yes.
And we've talked about this a few times in terms of injuries on international duty, but obviously this one came in the Premier League game. But how did you see the game as a whole? Drawing with Norwich is obviously another disappointing result, and that's 2 on the trot now.
I actually haven't seen anything from the game, but it was looking at the result is disappointing. Very, very disappointing, I think. But again, as I said earlier, when you expect Arsenal to win games, especially with the run of fixtures we had coming up, or have coming up rather, they were all very winnable games, and we've already dropped. We've got 1 point from 6.
Yeah, and we'll touch on the Sunderland game coming up a bit later on. But obviously from that set of 3 games, West Brom, Norwich, and Sunderland, you would have been pretty fair to expect 9 points.
I think as well, though, the injuries are starting to take their toll. I mean, we lost Coquelin, which is obviously a big blow. I mean, Fleming is not up to it, and don't even get me started on the donkey that's Mikel Arteta. But it's down to Wenger and lack of activity in the transfer market and things like that. But it's the same old story, really. Just when you think Arsenal are going to deliver, they turn around and go home.
And
Cazorla's out too.
yeah, I was about to mention Wenger's confirmed that Cazorla's out.
Yeah, he's out for 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
So that's another big loss. I mean, he started dropping off in form the last few weeks, but beginning of the season he was very good.
He was very good in that game, Cazorla. He was very, very good. So it's a shame that he got injured. And for Arsenal, it's, I mean,
Another
Ozil
injury blow.
in this kind of career best form for Ozil, potentially, or at least Arsenal career best form. Without him, there's really not much.
Well, Ramsey's coming back, so hopefully he can lift and, I mean, provide some support for Ozil. Because, Ozil can't do it all himself. I mean, he'll suffer from burnout eventually, and we've got a crucial game midweek against Olympiacos. So, and with all these injuries, it's not helping.
Well,
How
speaking of
about the Shelny? Is he out as well?
Nah, I think he's back.
Oh?
I think he's back.
speaking of
Well,
crucial games, we had United and Leicester drawing 1-1 in the late game on the Saturday night, as Bojan dubbed it the early title decider. And obviously the first thing to chat about from this game is Vardy setting the new record for consecutive weeks of goals scored, and it was a very well-taken goal, and it was a very typical Vardy goal.
It was a lovely ball from Schlupp.
Yeah.
I don't know what Darmian was doing though. He looked like he was lost at sea, but it was a lovely finish too, and all credit to Vardy, and good on him for getting the record.
Quite seriously, how much longer does this sort of form need to last for Leicester before we genuinely talk about them as a top 6 contender? Because they're starting to pick up points in these tougher games where we expected them to. I mean, they had that 5-2 loss to Arsenal, and that perhaps was a bit of foreboding for what was going to happen in these bigger games. But if they can pick up points against the likes of United, Chelsea, perhaps even Liverpool, Spurs, if they can. Well, they've already drawn with Spurs. If they can pick up the points in the big games, there's not that much ruling them out.
Well, to answer your initial question, when can we start ruling them out? I think if they've started dropped off towards January, if they get through the Christmas period, then I think they'll finish well above what everyone expected.
Well, didn't everyone expect them to go down? But,
I think I had them in 20th, I think.
Ha ha ha.
but,
Got your funny pants on, do you? But I think the Christmas run is always the toughest for a lot of teams, and especially the ones that lack depth, all due respect to Leicester.
But in fairness, is their depth not better now than, for instance, Arsenal, who have so many injuries?
Yes, but I mean in the aspect of if Leicester had the amount of injuries Arsenal
Of course,
they'd be nowhere near where they are now.
But I guess what I'm saying is, if Arsenal, given all their injuries, can still expect to be in a challenge for a top 6 spot, who's to say that Leicester can't?
But then I think that comes back to experience with Arsenal. They've done it for how many ever years now. And, I mean, 20 years under Wenger finishing the top 4 or higher. So, I mean, it's just an experience thing. And you've got to remember, you come sort of March, April, it's a long season, and the players might not be able to deal with the fatigue at that point. But, I mean, I guess we'll find out.
Of course, the other interesting thing is that a lot of the criticism about appointing Ranieri, apart from the fact that he's quite old and maybe wasn't as in touch with the game as he used to be, was the fact that he wouldn't be experienced in handling a relegation fight with Leicester, and that might actually count against him. But of course, now that they're up at the other end of the table, he's almost the perfect manager to have, because he would be the sort of manager who would be able to rotate the players and recognise when players need a rest and sort of maintain that momentum and form and confidence. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how they go. But Bojan, did you have any thoughts on the match as a whole?
Oh, yeah. We didn't, outside of that goal, we didn't have a problem with Vardy. Really, and the reason how that goal came about was the fact that Ashley Young was playing right back, because that's how bloody practice we are at the moment. And he didn't talk to Darmian, so the Bulldog played in behind Darmian, and Young didn't tell him that there was Vardy was running behind. So that's how that goal came about. We had a lot of trouble, though, with Riyad Mahrez, who picked on Paddy McNair a fair bit. So, and I'd actually say that he's probably more important to them than Vardy. But in order for Leicester, I mean, you asked the question, what do they have to do to get to top 4? They need him. He needs to just keep this up all season, because Ujoa and Otazaki, they were pretty putrid against us. we had them well covered, and Ujoa had one very decent chance and just hit it straight at De Gea. In terms of the overall game, it was it's more of the same. Dominate. Possession. Whereabouts you are in terms of the game, shots, corners, all this kind of stuff. But opposition has one chance and takes it, and fair play to them. But it's pretty disappointing not to get the 3 points. But I think a few more coaches will be watching the game tapes of that game, because Leicester can't defend set pieces at all.
Yeah.
At all. Horrible.
Well, I think they experienced that against Southampton from memory. They conceded 2 goals from set pieces, and we were commenting on the fact that their players aren't very good in one-on-one contests with opposition centre-backs and so on who might be a bit taller. So yeah, that is an interesting point.
Yeah, that's and they probably need to do some more. Well, Ranieri needs to go and coach them on defending corners, because for Schweinsteiger's goal, Otazaki was trying to tackle him to the ground.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like the whole way through. I mean, it really should have been a penalty, legitimately, if he didn't score. But Schweinsteiger
he had his back to the ball. He was just trying to. He was a rugby tackle, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It was like not sure if you guys like the NFL, but it was like an offensive lineman at the line of scrimmage protecting the quarterback.
Yeah.
He wasn't even looking at the ball. Yeah.
The other pretty interesting result from the weekend was Everton's 3-3 draw with Bournemouth. And I don't know if you guys have seen the goals from this one, but I mean, Everton were up 2-0 with 10 minutes to go, and Bournemouth scored an absolute screamer of a goal to get back into the game.
Great hit. Absolutely great hit. Top
just
corner from
the
outside
curl
the
on
box.
that ball, yeah.
Sweetly struck.
Yeah. And it went right down to the wire. I think the stat was actually that the last 2 goals in this game are the latest 2 goals scored this season. So a lot of added time on that.
It was the 95th and 98th minute. So yeah, it was definitely late on.
I can't remember who it was on the board that said it, but it was kind of ironic because the Everton fans who piled onto the pitch to celebrate that late supposed winner was probably the reason that they added the time on to allow Bournemouth to score.
Correct.
Yeah, you'd think so, yeah.
Were there any other results on the weekend that stood out to you guys?
Probably the Crystal Palace Newcastle one. That was a fair standout result, wasn't it?
Convincing.
But I
5-1.
guess, is it that surprising that Newcastle are very much up and down at the moment in terms of whether they got that 1-0 win against Bournemouth, and was it 5-1 against Norwich, I think, where Fornaldum got 4 goals,
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think.
That's
And
right.
apart from those 2 results, they've just looked absolutely putrid.
I said Newcastle were crap on the board, and I got absolutely slated for it.
When was this though? Was this pre-season?
No, it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Really?
And I said Newcastle aren't really that good, and then then a bunch of people said, they've been in a lot of games, close scoring, aside from this and this and this.
Not sure. I mean, yeah, they got smashed by Man City, so they've had a few pretty big beltings lately. Would you say that they're almost favourites for relegation, or would it still be Villa?
Both. You can
Both?
put both of them in at the moment, mate. They need to. I saw that game, and they defend as individuals. They don't defend as a team at all. And I was actually thinking about this last night. They need to sign. They don't need to sign an amazing centre back in January, but they need to sign a leader. There's no leaders in that side.
Yeah.
So
Mike Williamson is perhaps the worst footballer I've seen in a very long time.
Since Mikel Arteta on the weekend. Yeah. But the first person that came to mind who they could use, and you won't like this, but they
Yeah.
could really use like a Michael Dawson.
Yeah,
Just
that's yeah.
I know you wouldn't like it, but that's the kind of player and experience. Doesn't need to be a world-class centre back, but just a leader.
But
'Cause
the issue is,
lacking massively.
would he go there?
Oh, I'm not saying like
No,
like him in
no,
that kind
I
of
know
player.
what you mean. Yeah,
Would he?
I don't think he would. I don't think he would.
Is he your captain?
Yeah.
Oh well,
I-
Borough have overtaken you, so
They have.
maybe
They had
not.
a good win this morning. But in all honesty, I wonder if for clubs like Newcastle and Villa, it might actually be quite hard for them to strengthen in January in the areas that they need. Because if they try and pick players out of the Championship from sides performing quite well in the Championship, if those sides are looking likely to get promoted, then why would the players leave? Why would the players leave?
Yeah. I agree.
So it might be quite tough for
that's
them
the
to
player
strengthen.
they need, and another awesome performance by Balassi. 2
Yeah.
goals, an assist. They'll miss Saha next weekend. He's out with a suspension. But Connor Wickham, although he doesn't really get in the score sheet that much, but he's an absolute workhorse for them. He stopped Colback, basically bringing the ball out from defence and linking up with Wijnaldum. And as soon as he stopped that happening, Newcastle just completely fell over. And he had an assist in the game too. So pretty underrated, Connor Wickham.
And if Leicester weren't doing as well as they are, we would be talking about Crystal Palace a lot more than we are, because they're sitting in 7th spot, I think. Yeah, 7th. Sorry,
Palace. I
Palace.
think
Yeah.
are I think a lot of the neutrals are enjoying Palace, and I think they're sort of having the draw from the neutrals that Southampton did 2 seasons ago.
And
Yeah,
Watford.
And Watford doing very well as
Did it.
well. Yeah.
Troy Deeney. You still love players like that, don't you? Did you
I
see his goal on the weekend?
Yeah.
He just to come in from behind whoever the defender was asleep and just a bullet header into the top corner. He was he was a massive Birmingham fan,
I was about to
But-
say, yeah.
but he was with the Aston Villa youth team. Got released.
And he
So
I think he
he's
said
gone and
before the
slid in
match.
front of the Villa fans.
Yeah, I think he said he wanted nothing more than to score it at the Holt end and celebrate in front of them. Yeah.
Yep. And then another goal for Igalo, and that partnership is fun to watch.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think there's some stat that they've created more chances for each other than any other pairing in the Premier League. So they're very very on top of their game.
Igalo scored more goals in 2015 than Jamie Vardy. In fact, he scored the most goals in England in all divisions.
Yeah, he's been absolutely killing it for Watford, and I think we mentioned a week or so ago, or a podcast or two ago, that if he's performing to this level for the rest of the season and into next season, he'll certainly be on the radar of some of the bigger clubs, I would expect.
Will he get in the England side?
Igalo, is he even English?
No.
I thought we were talking about Deeney. I
Oh,
apologise.
Deeney. Deeney's been scoring a few goals. I mean, he was scoring, but I think for him, he was scoring the first half of last season, whereas Igalo was scoring the second half. So Igalo's 2015 stats are a lot better. Yeah, no, Igalo's Nigerian, so I don't actually even know if he's been playing for the Nigerian team, but I'm sure he'll
It
start to
would
get a look in.
be it would be an interesting forward line at the Euros. Jamie Vardy and Troy Deeney up front. But I heard Schweinsteiger after the game probably paid Vardy the ultimate compliment in comparing him to. So they asked him, has there been anyone in Germany that started football kind of late and then come up and playing this
Miroslav
well?
Klose.
Correct, Miroslav Klose, and that's a pretty big compliment.
And probably the other, it's not an interesting result, but the big game from the weekend was Spurs against Chelsea, and in a lot of ways, say credit to Chelsea for holding out Spurs and not giving Spurs the win, because Spurs have been scoring quite heavily recently, and they were good value for a win against Chelsea. And Chelsea lined up without a recognised striker and managed to hold on. So is this probably a sign that Mourinho is starting to recognise that they need to sort of scrape and fight for every point they can get?
Maybe. I
They
mean,
got to get out of that relegation battle.
well, there's a lot of talk as well about will Chelsea make the top four? Can they make the top four mathematically? I mean, I'm sure they can mathematically, but it's going to take a big effort from the start of the season they've had to finish in a respectable position.
Yeah, and that's right. And I mean, Chef's been saying, oh, well, they're only 12 points off the top four. And when you put it as a points amount, you say, okay, well, that's not that much. It's only, help me out here, it's 4 wins. Simple maths is failing me this morning. But then you look at, they've only got 15 points for the season from 14 games. So tracking at that, they're only just above safety at the end of the season. So, I think was it Jod actually made one of his rare sensible points on the board in saying it's not just 12 points that's separating them from the top four, it's about 10 sides. And you'd need 10 sides to drop off and drop points.
I think a few certainly will drop points, but
Oh, absolutely. Not all of them, though.
it's when and can Chelsea capitalise?
Yeah. So it'll be... I would rule them out of top four, but top 8 and maybe top 6 at the very most would be maybe their aim.
The encouraging thing for them is that Mourinho finally took Hazard out from the left wing, and although they didn't have a recognised striker up there, Hazard was basically playing up front, and with that freedom, he looked like the same player as he did last season. If they can get him backing up and firing, then that'll do a long way to their fortunes changing.
Yeah. We had League Cup midweek, the 4 quarter-final matches, and Liverpool beat Southampton 6-1 in probably the standout result, because I think both sides were pretty much full strength in that one, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a fake result.
It's very impressive. Yeah.
Divock Origi was voted the worst striker in League last year.
Yep.
And he scored a hat-trick.
Yep.
So,
and our very own Brad Smith managed to get an assist for one of those in a very nicely weighted cross.
Fox Sports were bloody frothing over that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good performance for him, but yeah, it was a good cross, but just because he's an Australian, they need to go on about it. How did you guys see the results as a whole? We had Stoke beating Sheffield Wednesday 2-0, Everton beating Borough 2-0, and Man City beat Hull 4-1 in probably expected results.
Deulofeu was absolutely electric against Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Mind you, I only saw 2 gifs, but they were enough to make up my mind.
I was in the city watching our game, and they actually had screens up of all the games, so I was able to keep an eye on a few of them. And apparently, that's the first time Borough have conceded 2 at home since February, I think it was, or March. It's been a very long time, and it's the first time they've conceded at home full stop in about 10 or 11 hours of football. So they've had a very impressive home record. So it was still a very good performance by Everton to get the win there.
Are they still coached by Aitor Taranto?
They are, yeah.
He's an aspiring. He could be a very good manager. He's got them playing well when he took over. They weren't in the best shape, and they're coming strong. And I guess we'll touch on it later, but they're probably looking good for promotion.
And then obviously Man City beat Hull City 4-1, and it was a bit of the result flattered Man City to an extent because it was 1-0 up until the 80th minute, and then they piled on the goals, and we got a late consolation goal. But it was a defensive error for the first. Well, it wasn't a defensive error. It was Akpom and Aluko not communicating for their opener. Both ran away from the ball thinking the other was going to get it, and De Bruyne just waltzed through. But it was a decent performance because Man City were full strength and we were playing our second string. So if we'd managed to snatch that one, it would have been a bit unlikely.
De Bruyne is just a wonderful player.
He is. He just can't stop.
He's marvellous to watch.
The worry, of course, is that he, like Sanchez, is just so integral for Man City that if he gets injured...
You got to think, though, they have Silva, they have Aguero, they have
Well, Silva's
Sterling.
only just come back from injury.
I know, but when Silva top of his game is magnificent.
I think Kizza on the board today was mentioning that Yaya Toure is the latest to be ruled out with injuries. So Man City is starting to rack up the injuries as well. I mean, they've got Company out, Aguero out, Toure now out, Hart's injured. So there's a bit of a mounting injury list for them as well.
Did you see Boney's miss last weekend?
No.
De Bruyne just burnt about 3 on the outside down the right, crossed it into Boney, who's around the penalty spot, and he's trying to hit it first time and hit it to the corner flag. It's pretty good. There was no one around him. That guy, how has he gone from... I mean, we were talking on the board about biggest falls from grace and, Kaká, Torres, Falcao. This guy was like a $25, $30 season striker in a half-decent team at Swansea. He comes to Man City, we're thinking, the service will get better. He's a man mountain. He's very strong, very fast. So we'll be banging them in. Great signing.
Maybe it's the style. Maybe it's the style of play for City though that affects Bonnie.
That's a cop out, mate. The style of play.
Give it a
play has nothing to. The style of play's got nothing to do with you missing like from the penalty spot with no one around you.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, if you said, he's just lost it, I don't understand.
Cruyff lost it.
Don't say that Man City, who are banging in 4 goals a week regularly.
Yeah.
Stop it.
To be fair, he has been scoring a couple of goals for them. I mean, he scored 2 against someone recently, I think. Bournemouth, I think it was. And he scored a couple lately. And he scored against us midweek. From a bloody tap in.
That's not cheating.
Yeah, tap in. Well, at least he's scoring them.
What are your thoughts on the draw for the semi-final? We've got Stoke up against Liverpool and Everton up against Man City. Who would you want to see in the final?
I think everyone would like a Merseyside derby.
Yeah.
And I'd love for Everton to win.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be great?
And they're in the form to do it. I mean, them against Man City will be quite an interesting tie because they're both playing their side full strength sides. So if Everton can keep this sort of form up, who knows?
Can you just imagine how unbearable the board would be if Liverpool won the Carling Cup?
Another trophy. Klopp's first trophy after 3 months of managing them. After Rodgers couldn't manage one in 3 years.
The thought already pains me.
I haven't been into the Klopp thread in about 3 months.
Yeah,
you don't want to go. You don't want to go in there.
We'll move on to the next set of fixtures coming up this weekend. We'll start with Man City up against Stoke, which is the early game. As I've just mentioned, I mean, injuries are starting to mount for Man City, so this could actually be quite an interesting game. How do you see this one, Cruyff?
I mean, City, they have the best squad in the league, I think, and they should have enough to get over Stoke. Mind you, it's at Stoke, so it might not be as straightforward as something. But I think if De Bruyne and Sterling are on song, I I can't see Stoke holding them off. But Butland will need to have a very good game.
No Shawcross.
But
that's a good point.
A big blow. That's a big
out for them. So obviously he got sent off on the weekend. So
was it a 3-game suspension? Because otherwise he would have served it in the League Cup.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay, well perhaps he was bad. Well, it shouldn't have been a 3-game suspension. In fact,
because it was the second yellow, wasn't it?
The second yellow probably.
Yeah. So yeah, it would just be 1 game, I think. Yeah.
All right. Well, if he's back, well, they'll still probably lose. They'll need Jack Butland at his best, and he was. I mean, although they got spanked last week, he was very good at the end. For them, I can't see them getting anything out of the game.
So probably 2 or 3-0 to Man City, or maybe Stoke scoring. They can't
3-1.
seem to keep a clean sheet without Company in the side. Even we seem to hold that.
They lack the leadership of Company. Something shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, someone like Mangala has all the physical attributes to succeed, but I think he needs someone like Company beside him to sort of guide him through the game.
Yeah. Arsenal up against Sunderland. Arsenal at home.
We should be winning, but I would have said that the last 2 games as well. And here we are, 1 point later.
So Sam Allardyce has certainly sort of shaped them up much better defensively, and they got a very impressive win against Palace a couple of games ago that we didn't touch on too closely, but they're certainly looking a lot better. Do you see them causing you a bit of trouble? I mean, you seem to struggle against those more physical sides, and as you say, with your injuries.
Well, at home we should have enough to get over them, but right now with Arsenal, you just don't know.
Bojan?
Frustrating game for Arsenal without Sanchez there and Cazorla and the like, and potentially having to see more Flamini in the side. I'm not sure how they're going to break them down. They're going to need something special from Ozil that I can see a pretty disheartening 0-0.
Yeah, they'll be very reliant.
You really think it's going to be 0-0?
Yeah, it could be.
Well, mate, if you've seen the Sunderland since Big Sam's taken over, I think they've lost 1, drawn 1, won 1, and they haven't conceded more than like a goal a game.
Well, except for the Everton game.
Except for the Everton game, but
which was, I think, his first game, so that probably was a bit of a fake result. If that's the theme for this week.
It was a fake result. It was a fake result. They were unlucky to lose to Southampton, and obviously they won on the weekend. But the point is that you're not going to belt them without those players.
Yeah. Yeah, I could probably see maybe a 1 or 2-0 to Arsenal purely because I do think Ozil's in that sort of form that if he can lay it on Giroud's chest, Giroud might be able to do something with it.
I think that's not the only thing Giroud would like laid on his chest.
Well, let's not go there. United against West Ham, and Rooney's been ruled out for this game, and that might actually be a blessing in disguise for you, Bojan.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. It is a blessing in disguise. Hopefully the ball movement quickens up. We're really down to our bare bones at the moment. It's not going to be... The whole bench will be full of academy players, which is good in some respects, but pretty average in other respects. We haven't really got any more defenders, so we've called up Guillermo Varela, an 18-year-old right back, now 2.
Fergie bought him, didn't he?
No, it was Moyes' first signing. First signing, and he was on loan at Castilla.
How long is Rojo out for?
Dislocated shoulder again.
Yeah.
Are you serious? I know he obviously had the jet lag and the penalty last week, but he was actually playing pretty well. And with Shaw out, he was playing well at left back. So I'd imagine it'd be similar to last time. Like they'll do a full surgery. It must be different to footy where they kind of just pop them back in there and you just keep going over there. But might be a touch more precious, and they'll put him in for surgery in probably 3 or 4 months, I'd imagine.
So you're another side like Arsenal who you're really down to the bare bones at the moment, and it does make it very interesting for sides like Palace and Leicester who traditionally wouldn't be able to maintain any sort of consistency over December, January. That if Arsenal and United are struggling for players and depth, it really does open up that sort of top 6 race.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. No, that's what
Jeez, you and Cruyff are very defensive about your. Oh, everyone else has to have good depth to maintain their push in the race, but if
No,
United and
but the
Arsenal are
difference
lacking
with
in
United and
depth,
Arsenal, they have the experience. They know it's something that you
you've got the
can't buy.
experience, and you lost to West Brom and drew with Norwich.
Yeah, but we're
no,
missing
but
14 players.
Yeah, well, that's my point. If you're missing all of those players for another few games,
Mino.
no, look, I certainly agree with the Leicester. Have a great chance as long as Vardy can keep scoring and Mahrez can keep up his current form. But United are really set up not to lose games as opposed to go out there
yeah.
and win games. So we don't lose too many, few too many draws for my liking, obviously. But yeah, I don't think Palace will have enough to challenge for top 6. But it's not too bad. I mean, it'll be without Rooney there. Hopefully Marshall plays up top. Lingard, Mata, and Memphis will play. And the midfield stood. My only question with the midfield is that, as I said earlier, Basti's in fantastic form, like Bayern Munich prime kind of form at the moment. We really can't afford for him to get injured. Carrick's just back from his ankle, so we're really down to we kind of need to manage that appropriately over the next couple of weeks.
So maybe, I'm thinking maybe like a 2-1 or a 3-1 to United in this one, because I do get the sense West Ham will nick one.
Well, interesting with West Ham, what Pyatt's out, obviously.
Yeah.
Frosato's out as well.
Right. Okay.
For this game, so they'll really miss him. He has been playing quite well. So if he plays a 3-5-2, I'll bloody break my TV. But if he just plays, a 4-2-3-1 or something like that, then I think we'll win it 2-0.
Southampton against Villa. How many do we think Southampton will put past Villa? Cruyff?
I'd like to say a few, but Southampton lost 3-1 last week, and the week before that they lost to Stoke, so they're not in the best of form, and they only managed to beat Sunderland 1-0 the week before that, so maybe 2-0.
Is Pella back?
I think so, yeah.
So I know Shane Long had his first start and scored last week. So
Yeah, he looked pretty good against Man City with that goal.
It was a fantastic finish. He wasn't great when he didn't have the ball, but it was there in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Is it home or away this time?
It's home for Southampton, and Pella seems to have quite a good record of scoring at home for them. So the Saints probably set for him to bag a couple against Villa, I would think.
I'll say 5-1. Mane's been excellent recently, and he's been linked with Bayern Munich as well as United in January.
Why did you guys bid like 40 million for him?
Why would we bid 40 million for him? we can just go and buy a better player.
How much did you pay for Laney?
28, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly my point.
That was Moyes, man. That was Moyes. And 28 million and 40 million are completely different.
It still happened.
Swansea against Leicester.
It happened.
Swansea against Leicester. Swansea at home, but they've been in pretty terrible form, and it's just sort of continuing for them the last few weeks. Leicester probably should be able to do this one pretty easily, I would think.
Yeah, with the form of Vardy and Mahrez, you'd think it'd be a straightforward win for Leicester.
Do we think Vardy will keep scoring?
Yes, but he's going to stop sooner or
later. He's got to. One of these weeks, someone will say no, he won't score, and they'll finally get it right. Broken clock's right twice a day, but at this rate, he just keeps going. United was the big one where I thought he wouldn't score against United, but he managed to do it.
We had him in his. Mike had him in his back pocket all bloody game, and just had one chance.
It's all he needs, It's all he needs.
Well, it kind of annoyed me because he's saying that, I wasn't concentrating on breaking the record or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's like, mate, you definitely were when you stole that penalty off Mahrez 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you definitely were with your celebration after that goal.
All I'm saying is, if they counted,
not that I begrudge him for it.
If they counted goals in all competitions, so he didn't score against us, and he played about 90 minutes against us.
But you're a minnow.
Well, and yet he didn't score against us. So what does that say? Yeah.
I think Leicester will keep going and they'll win this pretty comfortably 3-1. and Vardy at the double.
Norwich and Watford probably promises to have quite a few goals in it. I think it's been a pretty high-scoring fixture traditionally. Igalo and Dini to carry on their way and just score another hatful.
Maybe they're in good form, those two.
Very good form.
So, I mean, yeah, I think Watford will win against Norwich.
At home, yeah.
Yeah, you'd fancy them.
I reckon that Watford will win 3-2. Yeah, that partnership's just too hot for kind of lower league defences to handle. I think. No, I mean serious.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think it'll be quite a high-scoring game though because the way Watford have been playing lately. I mean, they conceded 2 to Villa. And Norwich aren't too bad away from home either. They've got a pretty good away record. So I'd still back Watford for the win though.
I said 3-2.
Yeah. No, I'm agreeing.
And
yep.
mate, our man Robbie Brady was very good last week.
He was. Except he got 1-on-1 with Begovic and fluffed his lines.
How about your favourite player, Mailer, Bojan?
He's still injured. He's back soon though. Back soon.
Injury troll, Roy. Stop injury trolling.
Yeah, that's very inappropriate. West Brom up against Spurs. Spurs looking to bounce back after that draw with Chelsea, but I can't see them having much trouble with West Brom, to be honest.
No,
You're right.
they won't have any problems. They won't have any problem with it.
What's that like? Was that because bouncing back from Chelsea? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's a bad result to get a draw with Chelsea these days. Yeah.
No, I'm really disappointed.
Hey, it's a bit. I
left points, Joe.
I honestly meant that quite legitimately, and it is quite crazy to think. Like last season, a draw with Chelsea would have been quite a good result, but how times change. Chelsea up against Bournemouth. How do we see this one, Cruyff?
I think Chelsea might actually win a game. something that they're not very familiar with this season, but it's at Stamford Bridge, and I mean, Bournemouth, they're 18th, and they're on the same amount of points as Newcastle. So I think Chelsea might actually grab the win.
I haven't watched Chelsea the last couple of weeks because they're pretty. Not only are they getting beaten, but they're pretty bloody boring to watch. Is Aspilicueta playing left back or right back at the moment?
Is he injured? Actually, no. I think he's back in the side. I'm not sure actually. I think Ivanovic is playing, so he must be left back.
Okay. I think this will be a 1-1 draw. I don't think they'll be able to contain Matt Ritchie, who, if you haven't
He's in great form.
Bournemouth, yeah, he's a busy player. And what I noticed about him on the weekend in that game against Everton, it was that he'll beat a couple, he'll shape to shoot, but then he'll see the better
and it's cut across the box. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's quite unselfish too.
Yeah.
So I think they'll have enough to scrape a draw.
Fair enough.
1-1.
Liverpool away at Newcastle. Liverpool just have their name written all over
Newcastle
this.
are Liverpool's bogey side.
That's true. There was that result. Was it a couple of seasons ago under Rodgers where they beat Newcastle 5 or 6-0? I'm thinking.
Maybe in the Slarius years.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, but no, definitely recently it's been an interesting fixture.
These banana skin sort of, and it's like Liverpool. The way they've been going, you just they have shown so much promise, and then they're like Arsenal at times where they just lose games you expect them to win easily.
Well, Coutinho was expected to be back for this one, but I think he's now being ruled out by Klopp. And he's certainly been an impetus for them going forward with a lot of attacking runs, and he's scored quite a few goals lately. But they've still got a very formidable side, as we saw midweek against Southampton. And they just seem to be scoring for fun at the moment. So, I can't really go past a Liverpool win for this one.
You don't
go. I think Liverpool.
I'd have to agree. I think, if assuming they're both fit, Klopp should start both Benteke and Sturridge in this game. And if he does that, I think they'll win 6-0.
Jeez.
6-0, wow.
6-0. If you watch them defend on the weekend, you'll understand why.
Oh, Newcastle are absolute rubbish.
They are.
Although
How much longer does McLaren last, in all honesty?
I reckon he'll be gone before Christmas.
I think was the stat that Klopp got him sacked the last time they met.
In Germany.
Yeah.
Wolfsburg.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
So I think there was some comment that will he do it again and get him sacked? And I think if Liverpool belt Newcastle, I can't really see them holding him too much longer.
Mike Asher should bloody sack himself.
Yeah.
That shit.
He's not the head of recruitment.
And then we've got Everton up against Palace Tuesday morning, and Palace are a bogey team for Everton. And they've actually had quite a few decent results against Everton in recent seasons. But Everton are in very good form at the moment. So how do you guys see this one?
I think Everton.
At home, yeah.
Yeah, Delafeu, Lukaku, Barkley. I think they'll have quite a bit of fun.
This is a game where Zaha's suspended for, but I think Balassi and Colin Wickham in the form they're in. I think this will be a very high scoring one, and I'll pick 3-3.
Very interesting. I think it will be a scored draw because I think Palace generally do have quite a good record against Everton in getting draws or upset wins. But it's so hard to say because like you say, both sets of players are in very good form, very attacking form. So it'll certainly be a good game to watch. So we'll see how that one pans out. Any final thoughts, boys, before we sign off?
I'd like us to win a game.
I'd like us to win a game as well. I don't think we've won a game since the last time you won a game, so that would be nice.
Hopefully we're back to winning ways.
Yeah, it'd be very good. We've got Leeds tonight, big Yorkshire derby, so hopefully we can win that one and get within a point of Borough at the top of the championship. But it's shaping up to be a very interesting championship title race. Brighton's still undefeated, got to be said. One of the few teams in Europe still undefeated.
Yes, the Brighton lad from work keeps telling me. Brighton's still undefeated.
Yeah.
They got James Wilson now too.
They've got James Wilson, yeah.
Oh, you should have heard him. He goes, James Wilson, Bobby Zamora, best strike force in England.
James Wilson, to be fair though, he made his debut, got the ball, just burnt two players and
Did he score?
hit the post.
No, he didn't score.
First time he's played in about 6 months. Down home.
My heart bleeds.
I do have a couple of things to say though.
Yep.
Happy 20th birthday to Junior Pele and Big Martin.
Oh,
And
give it a rinse. You sound like fate.
good luck to Darren Neville at Valencia.
Yes, we should touch on that. Yes.
I think that's a great appointment despite the no experience.
I think it'll be a very interesting one, yeah.
I suspect that this will be a prelude to the dream team at United. Giggs and Neville.
Giggs and Neville double managers.
Yeah, I think so.
Can you do that?
Either that.
Do you reckon you could do that?
Liverpool had Julio and Evans. Well, why couldn't you do it?
Okay, I didn't know that.
And especially as they're both kind of class of 92 guys.
Yeah,
It's not like
yeah.
there's going to be a rivalry over it. Or an alternative theory of mine is that the FA have kind of told him if you want the England job, you don't have to go and get some.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting one. Yeah.
Because he's only there for until the end of the season.
Is there any suggestion that if he does well, that'll be extended, or is it just a for the remainder of the season sort of appointment?
I haven't seen it been discussed, but his contract's up at the end of the season.
Right. Okay. Certainly be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much for coming on, boys.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, mate.
And thank you everyone for listening in. Until next time, I hope your team wins, and we'll see you on the forums.